Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is Robert Phoenix, and we are back out here in Studio A for another rendition of the Friday FARcast. And I think today we're going to try to go for about an hour because I got so much to do in terms of just catching up on the administrative stuff and getting back to people, which has been kind of a challenge, actually. So if I haven't gotten back to you, please be patient. I will get back to you. That's number one. Number two, our guest today, Ra, has kind of a similar hectic schedule. And so we're going to try to really focus in on and, burn this 60 minutes like it's a laser. And before I bring him on, and Ra's waiting in the queue here, but before I bring him on, I just want to give you kind of a very quick heads up because we're not really going to touch on this stuff. Maybe we will indirectly, but there seems to be a lot happening today. And let me just give you a very quick update. Apparently, Christopher Miller, who dutifully took his vaccine, by the way, he did a great job taking his vaccine and wearing his mask. He's a good citizen. He basically said to the Pentagon not to work with the Biden transition team. Now, they said that it had to do with a holiday. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Sometimes holidays are convenient, but this is also the day that the executive order that Trump passed in 2018 around the Insurrection Act runs out. Now, some people say that this date theoretically for that is arbitrary and that the Insurrection Act is still enactable, but there are very specific things related to voting and foreign interference inside the voting system that activate that executive order, and it is scheduled to run out today. So there is a deadline, maybe it's a timeline, arbitrary. Now, I am not telling you this because I'm rooting on this potential outcome. I'm just telling you what the mechanics are and what's in place. And now there's a bunch of chatter that a number of generals are warning people that, martial law is imminent and stay cool. And some of the people that are reporting that seem to be like spiritual or on the Q-tip. One of them even came through another astrologer. Somebody sent that to me. And my feeling is that, frankly, I don't trust any general. And that's just me, okay? I don't trust any general. I don't know who they work for. They haven't demonstrated that they've worked for us in the past. Usually they work for somebody like Rand Corporation or DynCorp or McDonnell Douglas, or these are the people that they work for. And I have talked with somebody inside of the military and who has known and spoken with people like Stan McChrystal, even Michael Flynn, and they have said to me that it's a real mixed bag when it comes to leadership at a high level. So when they say generals, it's a really vague statement. And you may think that the generals are the good generals, the white hats versus the black hats, but you don't know that. You don't know that. And to assume that is folly, okay? And I'm not saying that there could be positive or aligned support, but we haven't seen really any demonstration of that over the last 4 years. And we haven't seen any real demonstration of that, quite frankly, in a very, very long time. So just be careful when you're digesting some of this information so that and this will be, I think, the opportunity to bring Ron to the discussion, to lose your head. Like, don't lose your head. Keep your head on your shoulders. And that brings us into our topic of the day, which is fixed star Algol. So let's bring him on, the one and only. Wow, what's going on, my brother?
What's up, brother? How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Did you catch any of that intro?
No, I came in like 2 minutes ago.
Okay, so
is it better with this light, or is it better like that?
Yeah, like that. Yeah, right. Yeah. The other one's a little too hot. So basically, what I was saying was that the things that are breaking right now.
Yeah.
On the on the political front is that Christopher Miller, who's the head of the DoD, basically, and this is not supposition. He told the Pentagon specifically to not work with the Biden transition team. Like, let's stop right now. And if you've been following what's been going on with the Pentagon and the theoretical breach of the Pentagon cybersecurity system, right, that there is now a narrative and a backstory. And so this is linked to what Miller is talking about. And today's the day that the executive order that Trump put together in 2018, which has to do with foreign interference in elections, it runs out today. Now, again, I'm not saying all of this because I'm in a rah-rah mode for it to happen, right? I'm just telling people what's up, right? What's up. And then somebody sent me a post today on Facebook, and it came through like another astrologer who I'm not really familiar with. But I think that the intent of the post of the person who originally posted it was that there were a group of generals who were getting the word out that get ready, things are going to be shut down, and to basically be calm and
martial law is coming or something, right?
Trust the process, essentially, right? So how I replied to that post that was sent to me was that I'm just not into generals. I'm just not into generals. Like, I don't trust any general.
Yeah.
Why have they given us any opportunity or reason to trust? We don't know who they are. In most cases, they work for the military-industrial complex. They work for corporations like Rand or Bechtel or McDonnell Douglas, Dianco. I mean, and this gets back into the whole Shadowgate shit, where they will use and generate, right, any kind of social media and push it any way they want, right? So if people are really hip to, what Patrick Berge and through Millie Weaver talked about, like, this is right in that zone. This is right in that kind of, propagandistic Shadowgate. We're gonna move the masses. We're gonna move the crowd. We're gonna influence you through social media. And then I said, this is not a time to lose your head over these things, right? To keep your head on your shoulders. And I said, this is an opportune time to start to talk about fixed star Algol, which is associated with decapitation, losing one's head, and why you're here today, because you've had a lot of insights onto Algol. So
even before I came, right before I came on, I was sort of getting symbols like that is equivalent to like what the tarot world card would be. Like for right now, almost like roll with the punches. There's a time of, transformation happening, a cosmic knowledge type, this is the time, this is what we're going through right now. I literally believe, Robert, that we're having the best way. There's different ways you can look at it. Like, you could look at it from a religion aspect and say it's sort of God against the bad guys, or you can look at it from we're actually in some sort of 4D versus 3D war, where we're for the transformation of our 5D, what we're going to transform to, right? So we're literally getting sucked back through the loop of time, right? We're like, and I think this is at the cusp. Everything's tied in together, and right now we're sort of stepping into a huge transformation in December, and I think that for the next maybe like until like maybe the year 2240 or something around that time, we're going to have a completely new Earth at that time. I do feel so from now till then. And
let me just tell people about you. Some people may not be familiar with you. I think a lot of people that are watching in chat already are. But I've known Ra for a couple of years now. Ra is an extremely gifted individual that has the ability to see between worlds. He comes from a mystical tradition that comes out of the Etruscan part of Italy. Certain secrets, certain techniques were passed down to him through his grandmother. He had a very symbolic birth. which in some ways probably caused a high amount of DMT or something to kind of flush through his system very quickly, which I think has helped him with his second and third sight. He's also a really gifted musician. He can play guitar, he can spin, he can produce electronic music and beats. He's got a martial arts background. He was a kind of a star soccer player growing up. So Ra is a true Renaissance guy, and he really brings an interesting angle to everything because of, I think, his access point to these other dimensions that a lot of people may miss or may not necessarily have the passcode to. So I hope that is a good summarization of who you are.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think once you activate certain things, it's not about like, oh, because people will be like, wow, that's a lot of different things he's into. I think it's once you activate something within you, whatever you spend time into, you can excel at, and that's something that I was passed. In my Italian background, they look at the specific one that I'm from, the hereditary background I'm from, are sort of like called Tanaric mystics. It's ones that are like encoded with the stellar mysteries within inside their DNA. They have the ancient star knowledge, and a lot of it came from the Persians and the Etruscans and so on. Mysterious star people, they always say that it came from. And I think that it's part of my birthright, part of the reason why I'm here now and why we're all here now. Although we're little insignificant parts, we're intricate, important little insignificant parts of this whole system. And even my remote viewings, Robert, this year, I'm 42 years old, and I've been doing readings and remote viewings and spiritual work for, a couple of decades. This year, 2020, has been the most intense, vivid, visual, tapping in. I think that literally when we go to dream at night, we're tapping into our 5D self. Mm-hmm. And we're like cultivating that 5D life in our dream time. And it's been really vivid. Meditations has been vivid, just normal lucid moments. I guess when we're on a harmonic energy grid, we absolutely are based on a harmonic energy grid, our ley lines, everything. So I do think it's enhanced in my area, the Hudson Valley, lower Hudson Valley of New York. I happen to be right on a harmonic energy grid as well. Mm-hmm. And I think during this transformation, it's just been giving me really vivid remote viewings, remote visitings, and it's readings, all of that. And I've gotten some attention of my remote viewings, especially as of late. And I decided to sort of do some psychic experiments, if you want to say clairvoyant experiments, where I'm using copper plates or copper Faraday cages, and I'll remote visit or try to remote view something. Mm-hmm. And I did a remote viewing about our certain December Saturn Jupiter conjunction happening, mm-hmm. and the campaign and how it's all tied into it. Mm-hmm. And I was getting a lot of huge hits and information pulling me to not just the Caput Algol, but actually Hercus as well. 2 stars. I was getting a lot of feeling that there was something happening. And I do think it's tied into some sort of like galactic computer that mm-hmm. is all tied into all of this that is coming, and something might be getting activated. I see Caput Algol, actually, they call it a binary star. That's why it's hence called the blinking demon even sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but I see it as actually a triple star. There's something, there's a triple blinking in there. There's some sort of triple star connected to it. And that's one of these 3 that's associated with it is going to have some sort of activity, and something's going to be transmitted or interfaced with our realm associated with this star, I feel. And I didn't even know the Trump connection about it being in his, what you'll get into, I'm sure.
So, yeah, it's on his midheaven.
I didn't know it.
Algol. And just to, keep people sort of in the loop, if you haven't been following the show or you're new, I just assume everybody's been around for a while. But there has been a ton of Algol imagery around Trump. And it really came to the surface with Kathy Griffin when she had the decapitated head.
Oh, she was holding the head. Yeah.
Right. So that was like Algol on display. And there have been numerous kind of Algol references along the way, right? Like there was like with Jesse Smollett and like the fake news stuff around his neck, or
I didn't even know about all that.
Or Bubba Wallace with his little fake newsy thing in his garage in NASCAR, and even the governor of California, like Gavin Newsom, like hang him. Like we've had a ton of this Algol symbolism. Steve Bannon got in hot water when he said that he wanted Christopher Wray and Tony Fauci's heads on spikes outside of the White House. Like I get Bannon, I understood why he said that. It was metaphorical, but I also think in some ways Bannon would not be too adverse because he understands the level of deceit and treachery and the level that these people are playing at, which is not fair. They don't play fair. And that really is something people need to understand. Like we think that by following the rules of etiquette, the Constitution, the 10 Commandments, right, that we have this kind of armor and it's going to be okay. These people don't do that. They don't care about that. And they are waging a spiritual war against us that is very similar to what happened to the United States in Vietnam. Those are called rules of engagement, and they don't follow the rules of engagement. So we saw that with the election. We saw it's clear. It is being demonstrated now. So we now really, literally, we are at this place where a lot of people are really disconnected from their body, right? They're just right. And even the wearing of the mask in some ways is representative of this Algol imagery. Because it's like right here, and it's cutting off like this from everything else, right?
Veiling us from who we really are. You know, that's really who we are. And for people that don't know, I mean, this star, it's sort of been, I guess, Christianity sort of like made it more malicious in a way. But I mean, there's all different aspects of this star. I mean, it's looked at as like the head of Medusa. It was originally called Lilith before the Hebrews actually called it Rosh Hasatan, the head of Satan. Right. And it's in the constellation Perseus. And in medieval times, I mean, this was started to be called the demon star, you know, and it was Francis Barrett who has a book called The Magus. And even in that book, he said this is the most malicious and malevolent star in the universe. And what's interesting that I didn't know, I had looked it up once I was getting a connection between the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction and the campaign and everything. I started to look into it, and I found that even in this book, he talks about this star is the nature of Saturn and Jupiter within the occult, right? And then in ancient Etruscan, the Tanaric mystics have, I don't know if it's thousands of years old. I mean, it was from Volterra in Tuscany, and the Tuscans said that they got it from the Etruscans, and then it was passed down through the Tuscany area. But they have an ancient prophecy that goes along when the winter solstice is in Saturn and Jupiter, that there will be some sort of new sun king, new child of promise that is born, right? That the stars will give birth to this new sun king, this newborn god, right? And it talks about how it's when Saturn and Jupiter are in conjunction, and with the Caput Algol, it's all wrapped into it. I mean, this is basically like not just a malevolent star. The mystics, sorcerers, witches, the occult, anybody that was into that sort of occult knowledge, they would use this star to evoke protection against evil. Right. It wouldn't, and it would also be used to revitalize the body, to literally revitalize the body. So I felt like it was not just connected to Trump's astrological chart, that the campaign is somehow invoking this, and he's been he revitalized right away. Well,
he went through that 3.5 day Regeneron trip,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so there's a political story to that. Like the guy who created Regeneron is one of his buddies, and he plays golf with him. And so Trump really was like doing a Regeneron, favor to that dude, so that his stock price theoretically with this company would go up. But it gets into that symbolism, that 3.5 day resurrection symbolism that a lot of his followers, are very aware of.
Yeah.
What's really interesting about Trump, and you talked about this idea of the Sun King. there are people. So I talk about Trump in kind of dualistic terms. So sometimes I will talk about him in a positive or an interesting and constructive way,
I
and
mean,
other
his term MAGA, Robert, not to cut you off for just because so I don't lose the train of thought. Even his MAGA,
yeah,
MAGA actually means like a magus in Italian. In
exactly.
Italian, MAGA or Mago means like the elite of the sorcerers, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And if you go through like Warlock and Sorcerer, the MAGA
Yep.
is
A
above the
Mago would be a female one, but a Mago would be the male. So,
right, and it's above the Magister, which is another level below that.
Yeah.
But on the there's a light side and a dark side to Trump, and he's so extreme because of his sun sign Gemini with the Uranus conjunction that some of the dark appellations of Trump link him to Apollyon, who is a destroyer, right? And if you look at Trump Tower and where he theoretically lives, that living space is a shrine to Apollo.
Temple of Apollo, yeah.
It is Apollo, and he has Mars at 28 degrees Leo on his ascendant, right? So here we go again. There's more of that sun god, that Apollyon energy, right on the ascendant. So Trump plays into this in a pretty significant way, and if it's true about what the lore or the prophecy is, like it clearly is leaning into Trump because he has all of the kind of the symbolic bona fides around this thing.
Yeah, I mean,
and by the way, that is not an endorsement. I'm just telling you that. Right. That's how it looks.
I agree. Yeah. And this star, I mean, I think Algol comes actually from an Arabian Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul, who shows up in the Batman film, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Right. And guess what? Ra's al Ghul is played by two different characters.
Hence the blinking demon, the binary demon, right?
There's the Liam Neeson character, and then there's with the Ken Watanabe character. They're both Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. It's true too. I mean, this star. I mean, it's one of the main stars in mysticism. Like the Persians, they had 4 royal stars that they used, but there was also the main stars, and this is one of them: Caput, Algol, Hercus, Aldebaran. These are like major stars that are used in mysticism and shamanism. And in fact, like when the moon would be in conjunction with Caput, Algol, and Saturn and Jupiter would be in conjunction with Caput Algol, this is when they would use certain elements to charge certain talismans and amulets. Like Caput Algol is the essence of like the diamond and lead, and also of mugwort, right? So they would make like a talisman of diamond, and when the moon is in conjunction with Caput Algol and Saturn and Jupiter, they would forge this diamond with the correct sigil on it. While and why they were putting certain sigils with it, they would be sort of like bathing it in the aroma of mugwort as well. And so they would be making ritualistic amulets with this. And of course, from my belief, deeply, that our neural network is connected to the stars. It's like it's all connected. So when you're able to even like make a dagger and charge it to Caput Algol, it was used in mysticism to cut down demons, to exorcise demons. So it wasn't just used because as a malevolent, it was used to actually destroy evil magic as well. So
yeah, I mean, this is a discussion that we've been tabling over the last, I don't know, a couple months, where I'm a big proponent of the idea of exploring Tartaria as more than just an idea, right? But something that actually existed. And one of the things we've talked about is when you look at the Antiquitech, which is what John Levy talks about, on top of the onion domes, they're not always the same like symbols. They're different. And so what we've been tossing around is that these sigils were embedded in the Antiquitech. And the sigils had an opportunity or an ability to transmit a certain kind of power, and it was linked up to a lot of other things, including theoretically red mercury, because there's a this idea that red mercury lights were being used during that time. And then what happened is that after they buried the story, they began to recast this idea of sigils as being evil. Like this, you don't want to go there. Stay away from these things. This is the devil's script. When in actuality, they were probably used in a very holistic fashion and embedded into architecture and embedded into even sort of the social structure in a way that allowed the social structure to be theoretically plugged in and more empowered. What are your thoughts on that?
I think with any true ancient knowledge, it could be used that has power. It could be used to heal, or it could be used for war. So I think that it depends on what you're getting. People get polarized toward. This knowledge can be used to help to try to control people and for war, or it could be used to help heal the system, the bioenergetic system. And I do think that they were used probably for mapping out certain coordinates, and being able to even, put the altars in certain ways and the houses, their home structures in certain ways, like you're saying, all different things, So I wouldn't necessarily think sigils are evil. I just think some people get polarized towards the dark aspect of what they could be used for.
Well, you wouldn't, right? But I would say that modern Christianity would, right? They would say that they're evil and to stay away from them. And you come from a much more neutral place around this. You understand that it could go both ways.
Yeah.
What they've done is they've mapped out a territory and said, just bad, just don't go there, right?
It attributes to even like the basic archetypes of the goddess energy or god energy. Like most gods or god archetype gods or gods that are looked at out there, they're looked at as both gods of healing and gods of war, like the Sekhmet or Inanna or Ishtar, all these gods that they talk about that have positive and actually usually any god that's associated with some sort of sorcery or healing or sigils also has the other dual aspect that it can be used for war, to literally rain down fire on the battlefield or to bring you to a harmonic evolution. So I think that some of these can actually activate different harmonic frequencies within us to bring us to a higher level of existence, and some of them can to bring us to a lower level of existence and control us.
Right. And it seems like what's happened is that there's been this extreme imbalance because, they have no problem, flashing that or doing that. Right. So it's like, yeah, okay, we'll use these in order to create a certain kind of reality that we want people to invest in who think it's cool or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But at the other side of that, it's like, but don't go there. Stay away from these other things.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of, in the Planet of the Apes, at the end of the Planet of the Apes, when Charlton Heston, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston comes upon the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Buried right in the sand. And that was the forbidden zone. Like the apes knew that was there, right? They just didn't want anybody going there. They didn't want anybody to know that there was this pre-existing thing.
Yeah.
And so some of the stuff that we talk about and you're going to talk about kind of falls into that forbidden zone. It's like, don't go there. It's bad. And there's a reason why we're telling you that, because we don't want you to find out that there's an alternate history or alternate meaning behind these things in the world that are available to you.
There's a lot of ape symbolism in movies like that. Even when those hominids in the beginning of Space Odyssey, 2001 Space, with the obelisk, the black monolith that shows up, that black monolith, and you got all the hominids looking at it and touching it and not knowing. It's sort of the way that we look at certain sacred objects in the Bible and stuff today. Everybody's trying to look at it and crack the code of it when they really don't know the true nature of it, right? Mm-hmm. And it seems like after these hominid touch the monolith, the black monolith, all of a sudden they start activating certain knowledge within themselves. The guy starts banging the friggin', right? He starts using weapons, and the guy's standing up straight now, and the thing like a bat, right?
Yep. So it's a little off topic because we do want to dive into Algol, but what's your take on all these monoliths that are showing up?
I think it is a sort of symbolism that is like that. I mean, at first I thought maybe the monolith was used as a movie set or something like that. It could have been used as maybe they filmed something out there and it was left.
Mhm.
But I think it does have a deeper meaning. Maybe it's some sort of activation on a worldwide level, similar to Space Odyssey. I mean, Arthur C. Clarke did have some interesting knowledge. Usually things don't turn out exactly how somebody says it. And a lot of things that he came to fruition, and he had some powerful people that he was in contact with as well. So maybe there was some symbolism in that is sort of related to the transformation that's happening, us being being interfaced with an alien god, even some sort of
well. So that's interesting. Stanley Kubrick lived with Arthur C. Clarke for a period of time, and I think that what happened was that Kubrick found out some very dark material about Arthur C. Clarke, because I think he lived Indonesia, or he lived somewhere Sri Lanka, and it kind of allowed him to operate outside the system.
Yeah, I don't know what his personal life he was doing, but
I think Arthur C. Clarke had an interest in
young boys.
Yeah,
I heard
inappropriate relationships, right? And I think Kubrick, saw that firsthand. And some of, I think, Eyes Wide Shut has that.
Yeah,
There's some of that in Eyes Wide Shut,
yeah.
and I think it has to do with the shopkeeper and his daughter, right? I think some of that comes through a little bit. There's a lot of
Yeah.
So okay, the monolith thing. I mean, I haven't really talked about it because it feels a little LARPy to me in some ways.
Yeah, I haven't brought it up either.
And it kind of like, oh, are we talking about the Georgia Guidestones? Are they creating some kind of prophecy?
It did remind me of Space Odyssey, though, and I know other people did point that out as well. I saw other people point that, but it did remind me of that. I did when I saw that. First thing I thought of was the hominids banging on the monolith. That little black monolith that shows up at the beginning, and I just watched it again after many years. I hadn't watched it in a while. I had just watched it right before. That showed up in Utah, right? It showed up in Utah or something.
Well, yeah, and they've had a few others show up since then.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
What's interesting about 2001, and what was the other one? 2012 was it, or 2021? What was this? This
2012 to something too. I don't think. But I read a lot of his short stories growing up. I had a collection of his short stories. And a lot of his stuff, I mean, is sort of like what's transpiring now. He had the short story, 9 Billion Names of God.
Yep.
If you ever...
I know about it, yeah.
That is another interesting one where sort of like, technology and spirituality and the stars are sort of like entwined into one, and it's like a cosmic clock is ticking. And it's they're running through all these names of God. And then when it's finally done whirling through these names, all the stars start blinking out of the sky.
Right. Yeah. So that gets into Childhood's End, which is another kind of story of Earth as a Death Star or Death Planet.
Yeah.
And, I started talking about Childhood's End about 5 years ago. And then right after I started talking about it, they had the TV series. And when, and I read Childhood's End as a teenager, and as I'm reading this and they're describing Corellin, I'm like, that motherfucker is the devil, right? I mean, this is how Clarke is describing Corellin. And then when they portrayed Corellin, he's like this leathery, they pulled no punches. Like, here is your demon right here. And it was really creepy because in the series, I think he has either one or two kids that are with him. And it's also very reminiscent of this statue that they put up of Baphomet with the two kids. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen. There's a new one that they put up.
It's been around for a couple of years.
Baphomet has been pictured with kids for a long time. Yeah, the kids in front of him. Yeah.
Well, that was reflective of when Corellin is introduced into Childhood's End. And I've often thought that the millennials are the kind of the personification of Childhood's End in some ways.
Wow.
With the Pluto and Scorpio energy and the destruction and transformation. But that's, you know, so let's get back to I want to get us back to Algol, but the monolith thing is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I haven't brought it up either on my radio show or my YouTube or anywhere. I haven't brought it up. I wasn't sure how to really you know what I.
But here's where I think it's interesting, and maybe we could like create our own narrative around this.
Yeah.
Is that when you follow 2001, like where does the ship go to? It goes to Jupiter, right? That's where it winds up. It winds up in Jupiter. So, you know, Jupiter is going to play a really significant role here, like in the next couple of days. And what's interesting is the Keir Dullea character, Dave, winds up aging really rapidly at the end of the movie. Remember that? He like gets really old really quickly.
Like, you know, his name, there's a lot of Kabbalistic stuff that's embedded in there too. You could find even like his name Bauman in Hebrew, that's I am man, right?
Right.
And Dave is almost like the Meshiach ben David,
right?
You know, David, right? And even Hal is the HAL is like a rhythmic. I forget what the name of it, but it's almost there's a similarity between Hal and IBM, and IBM is an anagram for Meshiach ben Yosef, you know, backwards. So there's a lot of weird symbolism. Arthur C. Clarke, of course, denied all this when he was questioned about some of the links between Kabbalistic text and the movie. But there's a lot of interesting stuff just within HAL, you know, just the whole HAL computer and all that, how it's related to what's going on now in a galactic computer and how he had disassembled all of it.
I actually think at one time I did the astrological chart for HAL.
Yeah. Because
like as part of the movie, there's like there's a day and a time that HAL gets switched on. And I haven't done it in a long time, but I think one time I did a chart for HAL. But when Dave goes to Jupiter and starts to age very quickly and get very old, that's Saturnian, right? You know, because theoretically, as we get older, our bones get more brittle. You know, gravity takes its toll on us. Our backs haunch. So he goes to Jupiter, but then he has the Saturnian effect on Jupiter. And then the moment comes where, you know, it's always open to some interpretation where there's this new thing that's born out of that kind of synthesis, right? And it's coming towards Earth. It's the embryo. It's the new birth, the birth of something new. So I think there's some interesting messaging at the end of 2001, and it links us to the monoliths. So you know, we could create our own narrative around it versus what other people are willing to do.
That was, you know, and I don't want to give Arthur them so much credit, but I am going to say that I do think that was a paradigm shifting movie. You know, I do.
Well, that's Kubrick. That I mean, he's obviously
he portrayed it. Yeah.
But Kubrick was an alchemist. I mean, he was like creating movies within movies within movies. So you could see it at a number of different levels if you wanted to. He's a freaking genius.
Yeah, it really was.
I don't know. Seeger probably will know, but I'm not sure how Arthur C. Clarke like received how he felt about the movie.
I never saw him interviewed about how he felt about it or anything like that. I'm not sure.
Seeger's in chat. He'll probably know. He could probably leave a comment. So let's just real quick. Let's go to 2012, which is the sequel, and then we'll bring this back to Algol.
All right, you got to go with the 2012 because I haven't seen it.
So in 2012, it's not as compelling, obviously, as 2001, but what happens in 2012 is that Jupiter becomes the second sun in our zodiac, right? Which theoretically, if you look at it, it's scheduled to be, right? At some point, right? Like it is really theoretically nothing more than just gas, like a huge like gas reactor.
Great protector, right?
Yeah, and then Saturn was theoretically the original sun of this. It was the black sun, and then we switched over to the current sun, which is the binary star with Sirius.
You know, I asked an Indian Swami that question. If he thought that they were, he said, no, always been the same sun. Always been the same sun.
That's interesting. Because there are accounts, like historical accounts, where people describe the atmosphere as being very different.
Yeah.
Like there was a purple light on the planet, right? So, but if that even let's just say that that's true.
I kind of always went along with what you just said. The Saturn. I had interviewed the guy, and I brought that question out. Do you think Saturn used to be our sun? He said, no, it's always been this sun. You know, so.
Well, I think I've got to this point where reality is really questionable, even my own interpretation sometimes. But
what do you think? What's your intuition? What do you tell? What is
my intuition? My intuition says that we had a black sun, whether it was Saturn or whether it was our original sun, and we've seen in our lifetime our original sun go from warm gold and warm yellow to like white.
Like
yellow
to white. Yeah,
it's white now. So if that could happen, then theoretically it could have been a different hue as well, and a much darker hue. Yeah. So I think we did have a black sun. There's a cult of the black sun. Like, why would there be a cult of the black sun?
Yeah.
You know, or unless there really was a thing, or they were imagining something about it. But when you bring Saturn and Jupiter together, it's like it is the birth of something new. It is the birth of these two luminaries joining to make something much bigger. So will they rival our current sun? Probably not. But in terms of the potential, energetically, cosmically, symbolically, I think the answer is yes. And it sets up an interesting kind of binary pathway or binary network where we can like maybe have two channels of reality, at least two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on it. And the
I gotta watch the 2012 one. I never watched the sequel.
It's okay. I'm just giving you the spoilers. Jupiter becomes the new. So we now have two suns in the sky. At the end of that movie, it's Jupiter and it's our own sun.
Pretty interesting,
right? And theoretically, right? I mean, what if our sun began to, and like, there's a lot of different theories about what the sun really is. You and I talked about the electric universe.
Yeah.
Or where heat comes from. Like if you go higher, theoretically it should be hotter. But
yeah, it's interesting because like the closer you get to the sun, the colder it gets, right? So maybe it's sort of like cold fusion or something.
Right. Right.
Who knows?
But if somehow the capacity of the sun to create like photosynthetic processes was to begin to diminish, why wouldn't our solar system begin to compensate for that?
Yeah.
And have another like sun begin to move in and sort of take over or balance out the sort of decay. These are just things, random things to think about.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about Algol some more. And you sent me a sigil for Algol. Let me see if I can find it online. I think I probably can. Give me 1 second. All right, I'll go here.
I could probably find it somewhere if you can't. I don't know if I can post it.
It's probably pretty common. Let's see, we got. I think it doesn't look exactly like the one you sent me, but I'm gonna throw it up here. I think it's kind of close, and you can break this down. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I love it. This guy's got Dark Side or Dark Seed from a Jack Kirby comic, and Algol's in it. This is an interesting blog. All right, hold on. I'll leave a link to this. Hold on. Where's that sigil? Okay, here's the sigil. This is from randolphcarter.home.blog. This looks like a really interesting post. So I'll leave a link to this thing, and I'll share it with you what I found. So is this what you sent me?
It's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close. Yep, pretty close. Mine, the one I sent you it's almost like a key at the end that comes down. Yeah. But it's pretty close. It has, let Let me see if I have a big version of it here somewhere. I have a bigger version here, maybe.
Oh, I think I found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I found it. Hold on. Give me a second. Yeah, I think I found it. Here it is.
This would use to be actually, it would, yeah, that's a little bit more like it. Sometimes it's actually pictured with a black triangle at the end, a little black triangle at the bottom.
Right. So this part, which it looks nodal, and this part seem to be consistent on a number of the sigils. It's this part that seems to be adaptive or slightly changeable, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's usually the end here at the end that looks like the nodal part that you said.
Yeah.
Usually put to increase. That's an increase symbol to sort of like increase the energy, right? And then sometimes those two symbols right here is a sort of like, that's almost like a symbol of like the outdweller, and the end part is that's encoded with the kaput. It's because the binary star right there that they have those two things at the end. I'm not exactly sure what the end part means, but I know the circle at the end, on the left hand side that looks the nodal. That's I know that's used to, that's symbol of increase.
To me, this is the binary piece right here. This is binary. Right. And now
it could be, but that's also a symbol of like the outdweller, or even that symbol sometimes at the end could be used as a female symbol, but usually the female would be upside down, where it would be like it would be turned to the left a little bit, so it's facing like the loop is up, and the two circles are facing down. That would be the female sort of version of that. But the way it's faced now is like it's increase. That means the increase, to amplify.
Well, this is also reminiscent of Saturn, right? The H is the symbol of Saturn.
Oh, and, yeah, you could say that too as well, I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And then, this almost operates as like a plus value, right? This plus this. I mean, if you want to look at it from that perspective. But this is a very Saturnian representation of this.
It's the nature of Jupiter and Saturn. So, that's one of the main things with Caput Algol. It's the nature of Jupiter and Saturn, which is very interesting because I didn't know that at first. When I was doing the reading on the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, I didn't realize, I don't know about every star out there. So I didn't realize Caput Algol is actually looked at as the nature of Jupiter and Saturn, and they would use this symbol and engrave it on talismans for certain things. Like they would, if somebody would send a bad vibe towards you, or a spell towards you, or black magic, cast black magic, they would use this sigil to send it back to the sender, to bounce it back off and send it back to them. And it was used to actually revitalize the physical body. So they would bind this to rings, and when you bind this to a ring, it would protect you from anybody's witchcraft as well. So this sigil was used to they would put it in talismans and daggers and all sorts of things. So I do feel it's directly linked, whether Trump's aware of it or not, whether there's other forces behind it or not. I do think it's directly not just linked to his astrology. It's directly linked to his campaign and what's happening, what's transpiring. And I do think that something is there's some sort of galactic computer network, and I feel that it's all linked within the Milky Way. Within our Milky Way is like the mainframe of it all. And it's not a mistake. All the so-called mythology or stellar mysteries that people think are myth, they have to be relooked at, Robert, because there's ancient knowledge that's right in front of our eyes within all of this. And the ancient Persians, they had 4 royal stars, right? All of these 4 royal stars were connected to guardians of the galaxies. They were connected to these watchtowers, these celestial thrones. And these 4 royal stars were connected to like celestial Stargate chairs, like computers, like
Mhm.
literal celestial computers. And they were called like the Watcher of the East, the Watcher of the West, the Watcher of the North, the Watcher of the South. And each one of these watchtowers in the sky were called, Grigori or Watchers or Guardians, right? And they were all linked to the main one within the Milky Way. And I do think it's all linked to some super galactic computer. Maybe it seems like it's been there forever because it was put there from our future, and now it was put back in time, and it's looked like it's been there forever, but it was actually because something excelled in the future that put there, and anybody that's had sort of higher dimensional downloads, there's a lot of people that have had similar information. I mean, even Uri Geller was talking about it, and with Dr. Poharich in the 70s,
Mhm.
that these 9 beings were connected to some sort of galactic computer, right? Even
Mhm.
the guy Fal Thor, supposedly the guy with the Pentagon with Doctor Strange's,
Right.
right? He was talking about these computer stations, these vectors, Vector 1, Vector 2, all these stations within the skies. I
Mhm.
think that they're linked to, whether you want to call them fallen angels or higher dimensional beings, but there is some sort of super galactic network that is connected to all of this, and it's connected to who we are. I mean, we exist in this realm because of a digital code. We're here. Our genetic, genetics signatures is we're a genetic code. We exist because
Well, I think so. This is an interesting point. I think we're a genetic code that I think is both analog and digital. Right. I think it's a combination of both. And what they want to do is they want to make it strictly digital, right? They want to get rid of the analog part. So, and they've done that like quite successfully with audio recordings, right? So
yeah,
I think we're a little bit of both, meaning that we can be broken down into like binary data, zeros and ones,
it's all data.
but we're also carbonic, and our cells have memory, and they're almost like our cells are almost like vacuum tubes, like analog vacuum tubes. So I think we're a combination of both. And what they want to do is they want to eliminate the analog part.
Yeah.
Fourth industrial revolution, reset, take the RNA vaccine, and we're just going to flip everything digital.
Yeah, it's replacing DNA, and it's to put something synthetic in. And
That's right.
each year you go for your new vaccine, it's replacing more and more until you get. The way I view things, and whether this is right or not, anybody could take it or leave it. Do your own research. If it intrigues you, look into your higher self, see if it relates to you. But I look at things as that we literally were part of a higher dimension, higher dimensional being, and say, if you wanted to relate it to the Bible aspect or religious aspect, we can relate it in a way too. Say we were all part of Adam to begin with, right? And Adam was in this higher dimension, 5D, if you want to call it. And we can't even fathom what type of realm that is from our 3D aspect. But say this Adam created a genetic lab in a Garden of Eden, like a virtual reality genetic lab that has a time clock related to this lab, and inside this lab you grow species. It's a genetic, it's a genetic experimental being, and somehow, and it was controlled by a super galactic computer, some super quantum computer, and somehow a data virus entered into this hermetically sealed lab.
Yeah, that's like the Gnostic version
The tree of knowledge, right? The tree of knowledge.
It's the Gnostic version of the archons. It's like the.
So say the tree of knowledge is like a super computer, right? And
Mhm.
some sort of data virus was there. And Adam just had to access that data. And it made him collapse, that part of him collapse into a lower consciousness. Right.
Mhm.
Now we're all like fractured fractal fragments of that and of that higher being. And maybe other higher beings came down into this lower realm, decided to take place in this genetic experiment. And now we're a mixture of all these other higher beings. All right.
Well, yeah,
And now 4D is absorbing 3D again, right?
Mhm.
And we're getting sucked right back into the Garden of Eden to go back up. We got to get sucked right back into the data virus. So, and we're sampling the tree of knowledge once again, right?
yeah, that's as well, getting sucked up by the data.
Right.
virus.
Yeah. Right. We're sampling the tree of knowledge once again. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
With all this computer, everything that's happening, we are sampling from the tree of knowledge that brought us the data virus. Right?
So one of the things that I was kicking around last week, and it's not like a novel idea, but it's something that, kind of jumped out at me last week on the Sunday night show. I was like, the nature of God. Like, is God all seeing, all knowing, omniscient, omnipresent, knowing everything that's going to happen and has happened and will happen? And I thought to myself, if I was God, that'd be really boring for me. That'd be really boring. And
I think we have free will, and God,
well,
and that's the major harmonic law of the universe, and the free will is being restricted. That's why we're losing choices, and we're losing dimensions. Dimensions are choices. When you have infinite choices and infinite free will, you have infinite dimensions, infinite possibilities. But now we're being restricted, and the dimensions are converging again.
So the idea was that there's an unconscious part of God, like, and there's an unconscious part of God as well as an unconscious part of us. And as we wake up, like, the unconscious part of God also wakes up, along with us, because again, if God is omnipresent and omniscient and all-knowing, then it'd be really boring to be that God. So there's a part of God that's unconscious with us. The free will thing, I have a little bit of a different.
Maybe that's what keeps God going, is he likes to see what the free will of all of us will take us. What that free will, because even in the Bible, God's angels, his angelic commanders have free will. They can, they've chose to disobey his direct orders and put their DNA into this realm and come into this realm, right? So it seems to be the ultimate law of the universe is free will.
Well, the first person I ever worked with was like a very unusual guy, but he was incredibly mystical. And he made a distinction between free will and true will, which I thought it always stuck with me. And he basically said, and I've said this before, and I get a lot of pushback and blowback on this thing. I've said that there is no such thing as free will. But what there is this idea of the true will.
It's all written in stone, sort of.
Well, so we make, as a free will kind of agent, we make a bunch of bad fucking choices sometimes, right? It's like, okay, you got free will. Let's see what you do with it. Yeah. In many cases, like, our free will has not really resolved itself into like higher action, higher actualization. It's a lot of learning experiences. But his concept, which really spoke to me, was when you connected with your true will, like, that's where it becomes free. Like, that's where you can really, like, do amazing things. And it's much higher than sort of the kind of lower option that's available.
So how would you define true will from free will?
Well, I think true will would be a harmonic that once you understand what your operating system is about, or this idea that God, which is conscious and unconscious, has an opportunity for you to explore and expand at a higher level, right? That's the true will, or that is the higher dimension of the will. And
that's kind of like what I believe in. I believe that we're supposed to have a harmonic evolution, right? Higher harmonic levels, but somehow along the line we got corrupted with some sort of data virus, and part of that consciousness now has to make it back up to that.
I agree. I totally agree. And what's interesting is that we've been in this time where theoretically the application of will has been really diminished.
Yeah.
People's businesses are getting closed. People are telling you where you can go, what to do, what to wear, what not to wear, what shot to take. So there's
moments of time, right? Where it's like nothing means anything anymore. Summer vacation doesn't mean anything anymore because everybody's home.
So, right? So people have lost this idea of freedom, and free choice, which is connected to free will. So to me, this is like the way that we circumvent that is we got to go up a couple levels.
Yeah.
Right. We have to, like in astrology, I'll just use Trump's chart here. In astrology, the ninth house has to do with higher consciousness. It's the highest part of the chart. It's the upper room of the chart. And that's where we have to go. We have to, endeavor to lift ourselves and lift our vision up to a higher place. And maybe this is the higher harmonic that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then, because that's what, theoretically, that's what Jesus said, right? Like I must go to the upper room to be with my Father. Like he wasn't talking about going to the loft in the little cottage he was staying at. He was saying, I have to elevate and I have to raise the level of my consciousness to meet this other level of consciousness. So when we basically are being like herded like cattle and our will is being cut off, our theoretical free will is being cut off, it's this higher will that we're actually, I think, being called to explore. And again, how it was said to me that the higher will is our true will. And once we connect in with that, like now we're like really cooking with gas. We're really cooking with gas. And you can, then we're into the realm of the miraculous and magic, and things really open up. You're at a harmonic, but it's not like, well, my free will says tonight I'm going to go out and, go snort some coke, right? It's like, it's at a different level than that, because free will is interesting, but I think ultimately it leads us to this potential of the higher will or the true will. I wanted to point something out real quick. You were talking about the 4 stars.
Yeah.
Right. So in Western astrology, there are 6 fixed stars, right? There's Algol right at the top of Trump's chart. So there are 6. And one of the interesting things that, like if you go into the Tartarian sort of mythology, they talk about, and maybe you've heard this too, maybe in the Etruscan, they talk about the 6 kings. Do you know about this?
Primordial kings?
Well, there were theoretically there were 6 kings that ruled over the planet at one point in time.
We have 9. You have 9. Yeah.
So they
were all stars from the start. They're like, one is called Ursa, one is called Kata.
Right.
Yeah.
So here we have the 6 kings. We have the 6 stars, the 6 royal stars. And I think they're what, like 12 or something, but these are the ones that Western astrology always uses. And here we have Algol on Trump's midheaven. And then here's Regulus, the royal star, right on his ascendant. Like that is the king of kings.
Is on Antares probably one of them for Malhut, right?
We got Antares, Aldebaran, and
Regulus.
Regulus is, yes. And then, oh God, I always forget the one that's associated with Libra. It'll come to me. Here we go. God, I'm sorry. I'm having a moment here. Anyway, these are the 6 fixed stars that we use in astrology.
In Persian, they have the 4 royal stars as Aldebaran, Regulus, Fomalhaut, and Antares.
Right. Antares is related to both Jupiter and Mars.
And the autumn equinox.
The
equinox is what they usually relate Saturn to. Antares to the autumn. He's usually seen as the watcher, of the autumn equinox, the watcher of the south.
Yep. So the royal stars in Persia were Aldebaran, Regulus, Antares, and Fomalhaut.
Yeah.
Antares is connected to war. It's very Mars-like.
Yeah, you know what's very interesting? And over the last couple of months that I was shown that part of my soul travel throughout my life, if you want to say, that I was part of what we call Antares in the Scorpius cluster, that I went through an ascension process in something that was connected to Aldebaran, and we made soul contracts somehow we went through an ascension process. We learned how to deal with negative energy and negative thought forms and this sort of harmonic pollution that happened on the planet, and during Atlantis is when the first times of these soul contracts emerged on this planet. And now again in the late 1980s, people started to incarnate or have walk-ins or activate their soul contract as well. It's been coming powerful information has been coming to me over the last few months about just who I am in general and why I'm here and how I ended up here. And it's really interesting. We're at a very interesting cusp of a transformation, I feel.
Well, one could make a case that you're connecting in with your higher will now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so I know a little bit about your personal life. I mean, I'm not going to get too personal, but you went through a period where you were working on a job and you just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I felt it was the one aspect of me, and I'm doing readings and I'm doing all the spiritual stuff, and then the other aspect of me is I'm clocking in and I'm in prison all day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was weighing hard on me, and I was doing the work of like 3 people at the job, and it wasn't paying enough. And finally, I just like confronted my boss. He brought me in there to reprimand me for something that I didn't even do. It was somebody that was under my watch. Something, you know, that you know, I was responsible for 17 people and teaching them how to work the equipment and different things. So something that wasn't even under my control, that I can't be everywhere at once, you know, and you know, I was getting reprimanded. I kind of confronted my boss, you know, and it was like, you know what, it's either give me more money or I'm out of here.
Right.
And, you know, so he told me to, you know, we kind of like told each other to go F themselves, and I stormed off. He threw me out of the office, and I made a decision. I'm like, I'm not going back to that kind of prison life again, you know? So yeah,
Right.
it was, and then since then things have been really changing for me.
Right. So one could make a case that it was your higher will, your true will, that was calling you, right?
Yeah.
Calling you towards your destiny. And in that moment, you activated it through your free will, but your free will was like the output of the true will's input. And so now you're evolving along like your path and your destiny, which is connected to this idea of the higher will and the free will. And I went through something very similar. We'll talk about Speaky here in a second, because that was the one fixed star that I was blanking out on. But
oh yeah,
yes, which is at 23 Libra. So what? Back in like the 90s, I knew a lot of people who were in the music business,
yeah.
and they were friends, and a lot of them were really talented. And I thought it was that my secret sauce was to help them, and to help them with like marketing and promotion, and because I had ideas and stuff, and I wasn't really that successful at it. It was like I was marginally successful. And then eventually what happened was I wound up navigating to this. And it was through a whole series of, well, in some ways similar to your story, but different. And then look what, then I've evolved through a different kind of, manifestation. And it was like, I'll help other people. But it's like, no, you've got to do it, right? You have to do it. And I put that off for a really long time. Like I didn't start doing my blog until I was like 48
Wow.
years old.
Yeah.
So
I just we just had a baby, newborn baby at the time too. So it wasn't really, it wasn't really the right time for me to be walking away from a paycheck.
Right.
And
right.
I really, it was a really big decision, and
I'd gotten laid off. Right. I had gotten laid off, so I didn't have a job. And so it was like, okay, well, what are you going to do now?
You sort of stood up for your own will,
Well, it was just one of those things. I did a post on Sarah Palin and her astrological chart. I hadn't done anything astrological on my blog. I had a few other things that were remotely interesting.
Set off the spark for you?
Yeah, and that was it, man. It's like I looked at my metrics and stats. It's like, whoa, I'm getting a shitload of views. So it was like, okay, maybe I should continue to go along this line.
Yeah.
And so I would just continue to do that. And, here we are.
All over the world, man.
10 years later, for better or worse, we're still here. So it says here, Speaker astrologically is a good star.
Now you're a rock star in the astrological world.
I don't know if I'm a rock star.
Well, in astrology, you are.
No, I think I'm a survivor, right? I think part, what did Woody Allen say? Like the key to success, 90% of the key to success is just showing up. And if you stick around long enough and show up long enough, there's probably a pretty good chance you might actually do something, right? Yeah. And I got Saturn in Capricorn, so I have a little bit of endurance in me. So let's tell people about some of your work and services that you offer.
Yeah, you can find me at themysticalspiral.com and themysticalspiralstore.com. I got copper tensor tools, crystals. I have a shaman's class that I do that you could purchase. I actually have a Patreon, patreon.com/themysticalspiral. I'm live every week on Truth Frequency Radio Network. That's at tfrlive.com/Eye of Ra. That's every Saturday night from 7 to 9 Eastern. And yeah, I mean, it's been really intense this year. I do the bioenergetic readings, and I've never been able to connect as vividly as I've been able to this year. You know, it's been way more intense. I've been doing readings for over 20 years, and it's on a whole nother level now. Whole nother level. I mean, sometimes it takes me a few days even to get a lot of information. So I'll sit with somebody's information usually before, during, and after the reading. And you know, it's a process sometimes, but sometimes I can have some deep, heavy information come, and I can connect to their higher system, their higher selves, you know. And a lot of times it's through even the sound of their voice, certain things that I'll just get these flashes, these images, you know, these bursts of info come to me sometimes. And in an ideal world, I really would be able to love to like be able to fast a lot and more often and do things like that, because I do think I'm only using a small percentage of what I'm really capable of, or any of us are really capable of, for that matter. But yeah, you guys can find me at themysticalspiral.com, themysticalspiralstore.com for my store. And definitely check me out on Truth Frequency Radio, on YouTube, and on Patreon, you know.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that you're a natural born mystic, and you look great, by the way. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Thank you. I'm 42.
Well, you look great. I like the long hair. The long hair is a good look.
I haven't got a haircut since February.
No, dude, it looks good on you.
It's long. It's really long.
And it looks good, and your skin tone is lighter. You seem clearer than the last time we connected.
I had a bad camera too last time. I got a new camera. The lighting was like making everything all red and stuff.
Right.
Camera, yeah.
Well, it's working out for you.
Thanks, buddy.
Trying to think what else I was going to say before we sign off here. So one of the things you just touched on, it was you said that like
more often too.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. One of the things you touched on was that you were opening up, and like you said, I haven't even hit my potential, right? I think that's about to change. Like I think that's about to change for people, and you just have to pay attention to that, because there are things happening, and I really want to tell you guys about a potential event on Monday. I can't do it yet though.
Is that the 21st?
The 21st. I can't do it. I cannot.
I have something that I'm holding back as well.
I cannot do it yet. But if this thing goes as it hopefully is, planned or predestined or ordained, I think it's going to be one of the most revelatory expositions of the astrological alignment for my world that I could participate in. Okay. When I get the information, hopefully I can talk about it on Sunday night, because this thing that is being worked on is going to theoretically happen on Monday. So,
it's interesting you're saying that, because I have something, those that are on my Patreon, they got a little wind of it and me talking about it in my articles.
Mm-hmm.
But I have something that that was told from my inner self, my higher self, if you want to say,
mm-hmm.
that information that just came to me that I felt that needed to be done is something that I need to do on Monday, and it has to go with a certain special dolmen that I have to go to as well. So I do think that there's a harmonic convergence happening. There
is, and it's like,
and people are gathering at different spots to join in.
Different spots, different activities, and I think speaking to everybody individually, right? But with this idea of a higher organizing principle.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about it. And if this thing comes together, and I'm pretty sure it will, I can't wait to share it with people, because I think it's gonna be pretty cool. So I think hopefully every one of you has that kind of open vista in your own life and in your own space, so you can bring this energy in, whichever way you can be drawn to it, or it draws itself to you, because that's a whole other thing. Like, sometimes we think we're in control of certain things, but when we bring Aquarius in, it is the freaking wild card. It is the wild card, and there are opportunities here.
I agree.
Yeah.
We're about to transform. It's up to us what we transform into. It really is.
Yeah.
I agree. And thank you for having me on, Robert. I really appreciate it. And we got to have you back on my show on Truth Frequency Radio. It's been like 3 years. It's been like 2 or 3 years since you came on, I think.
I know.
So we got to have you on, man.
I remember. I think I remember the last time. I think you're more of a rock star than I am, though, because you actually play guitar and sing songs. One time you went out to, I think it was after you left your job, and I think you were kind of pissed.
Yeah.
And you took your guitar outside and you made up this song. What was that song again? It was funny.
I don't remember what it was called, but I remember. Yeah.
It was kind of like a rap thing over an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
It was actually quite good for just like, cooking it up.
Just riffing. Yeah. That's how I get out. That's how I get out my the personal dilemmas sometimes. I just have to let it flow out, create it creatively. Because I really think if you bottle, especially people like us that pick up, if you want to call it, for lack of a better word, psychic energy from people, you pick up energy from people. I think if we don't deal with that negative energy that we could pick up from people, places, and things in the correct way, it can literally lead to like schizophrenic. It could split your mind. It could literally crack your mind if you don't filter out that psychic energy the correct way. Negative energy, it'll split your friggin' mind.
Yeah, it's not just people now; it's events too.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes like the stuff with the vaccines and the no needles or the empty hypodermics. It's like they're almost like gaslighting us intentionally with this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'd rather go down fighting. I mean, of course, it might come to war where we try to get forced into vaccination. Like we literally can't do anything. We can't have a bank account. We can't do anything.
But there's some real fuckery.
I would rather go down.
I agree, but there's some real there's some fuckery going around with the vaccines. Let me just try to get people up to speed here. Apparently, they're having a hard time now delivering the vaccines. So there are like weird snafus that are happening in vaccine land.
There's a higher intelligence involved in all of this. So, just like the atom bomb thing, maybe it'll prevent this from ourselves.
So and I've been reading this that like it is not like rolling out as a smooth process. Like they're having not just the fact that this nurse in Tennessee just completely collapses. Have you seen that video?
No.
I should show you guys this video. I should show you the video real quick. I'm going to show you the video.
Is it in the UK or somewhere?
No, she's a nurse in Tennessee. I posted it over on Facebook. Let me see if I can just find it really quickly. Like it is really freaky, and it's like
I get gotten the vaccine, or
give me 1 second. But I think they're having real problems with the distribution piece, and they're also having problems with the application side of it. Let me just see if I can plug this in here. Here it is right here.
You want me to hit mute?
No, you're good, man. So I can find it. I'm going to go back to my original source. Here we go. All right. So apparently now she's actually apologized for this, but it's sort of like the guy who got shot in the face by Dick Cheney apologizing for his face being in the way, which he actually did, by the way. So here, I'll show you. This thing is just incredibly creepy and scary. So I guess her name is, no, this is the guy this is the YouTube feed. Okay, so check this out. This is really frightening.
That's the nurse that collapses right there?
Yeah, watch.
I did, yes. So, all of my staff, we are excited to get the vaccine. We are in the COVID unit, so therefore, my team will be getting first chances to get the vaccine. And I know that it's really, sorry, I'm feeling really dizzy.
What the hell?
Watch this. Look at her eyes. Look at her eyes.
Yeah.
See him cross there?
I sensed that she was breathing weird at the beginning too. She started breathing a little weird.
Watch this.
She had just gotten the vaccine
That morning.
Mod on.
Look at her arm. Look at her left arm. Of course, fat ass gets in the way there to block the camera. This thing is really, really terrifying, actually. And somebody on Facebook told me that somehow that this was related to Q, and that this was like a Q drop, and it was like a sign for Patriots. To me, that was just really weird. What? Keep an eye on her eyes here. Watch what happens with her eyes.
Halfway through the video, I saw she right there. She started taking deep breaths. You see? She took.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at the eyes. Watch what happens.
Chances to get the vaccine, and I know that it's really.
Well, she's struggling.
Yeah.
See that right there? Did you see that?
Cross. Yep.
Right there, right there. Look at the eyes, right? So people think that this might have been a LARP or something, but when you look at her eyes in this one phase, like she's really struggling. And then, like right there, like look at that. Like what the hell is going on there?
Who wears their watch like that too? She was wearing it on the side of her wrist, not like. Rewind it a little bit. Like she was wearing her watch. Like who wears it like that? Like it's either front, like it's like twisted weird on the side, right?
It is twisted weird on the side. What time is that watch saying? 12? It's 1 o'clock. I think
it's usually worn on top or underneath, not like on the side like that. It's weird. It's a weird. She looks kind of disheveled a little bit. I don't know. Maybe the watch is like facing the camera.
Yeah, but this look like right. This look right.
Yeah. She's
like
she went cockeyed for a moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Her legs were probably doing the chicken dance too.
And then
it's like she got punched in the chin.
This is like one of those Hillary Clinton moments on the 2016 campaign trail. Look at that left arm. That left arm is like totally rigor mortis.
Yeah. Yep.
So now she's apologizing for this. So maybe they were able to revive her, and whatever. Like, let's apologize for the fact that
I don't think that was staged.
I don't think it was staged either.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's staged either. I think you're seeing somebody who had an adverse reaction, and they said that she had done a 20-hour shift or some bullshit like that. And she was tired. Apparently, that's not true. That she was fairly rested and came in that day expecting to get the vaccine, right? You don't do a 20-hour shift.
Why would they administer a vaccine to somebody who just worked 20 hours?
Exactly.
Wouldn't you want their friggin' immune system as vital as it could be?
Yeah. So 17 minutes after she took the shot, and I get it, right? I'm sorry, Stephen. I don't mean to be dismissive, but that's like one of those Q codes.
17.
Right? 17. It's like a Q code because Q is the 17th letter. So, is there a synchromysticism involved here? That is somehow
what the watch was facing the camera. I wonder what that adds up. Does it add to 17?
I think the watch was 1 o'clock. I think it was 1 o'clock. It was either 1 o'clock or 12:15. Well, maybe if it's 12:15, then that might be 17 as well.
Yeah.
Right? Theoretically. Actually 12:15 be 27. Anyway, but I have a hard time. So if you're going to interpret that as like a Q drop or a Q moment, like how do you interpret that? I mean, really, how do you interpret? And do you even need to interpret that at that level?
I don't think so. I don't think it needs to be interpreted.
Yeah, I get your reporting, and I don't mean to be dismissive, but for me, it's like that woman took a vaccine and she was out like a light. So at 17 minutes, there is this, relationship with Q. And yesterday was the 17th day. So these things tend to add up.
It does take something about 20 minutes usually to hit you too, right? When something's either injected or not intravenously. It's not injected intravenously. It's like skin popped, right? They don't put it into the blood, right? Like that.
Yeah, they do. They put it. Well, they inject theoretically they inject it into your arm, but
They're not into intravenous, like they're not putting it into your vein, though, are they?
yeah, no. Well, no, they don't go intravenous.
No, they
They
go
hit,
right.
they hit you into the deltoid.
Yeah, so that would take probably a few minutes to hit you. Yeah, for sure. That's crazy, man.
Beware of skepticism. Beware of skepticism. I'm skeptical. Should I be skeptical of skepticism?
What would it take for you to? What would it take for you to personally to take a vaccine? Like, would you? Was there anything that would say that you would, you would willingly take it?
I don't think so. I mean, I really don't. I don't think so, unless I was convinced it was going to turn me into Captain America. You know, in which case maybe I would. The whole super soldier trip, which, by the way, theoretically they might be able to do. But Stephen, I'm really curious. He's in the chat room, and again, I
can't see the chat. Is he pro vaccine?
No. He just mentioned 17, and I would love for him to maybe educate me or other people as to how 17 would relate to that moment and that event with this nurse passing out. I mean, I think that would be maybe there's something I'm missing out on here, but if you have something, Stephen, that you can make a connection with, that would be interesting. So what else do we have? I prefer to evolve as organically as possible. Taylor Adams, I agree with you. Ursilia says, I'm COVID positive from my clinic. It's not that bad. It's like a really bad sinus infection, no fever. It's been 8 days before. I know 17 equals Q. We get that.
Well, 17 too is also in the major arcana. It's the star card, the key 17. And when the star card is reversed, which maybe can symbolize with her watch, and I'm just speculating here.
Well,
right?
I mean, what are we dealing with the Jupiter Saturn conjunction?
Yeah. So
right?
if the
star card is Aquarius in the major arcana.
Yeah. Well, the star card is key 17. Yeah. Right. And if it's in reverse, that basically means when everything's dashed to the ground, when it's hopelessness, doubt, disillusionment, lack of perception, pessimism, when one's hopes is dashed to the ground and brought down to earth with a bang, right? With a star bang.
Right.
That's the reverse of that card. The other side, the meaning is aspiration, hope, ambition, all of that. But the reverse of that is hopelessness,
Right, right.
So who knows, Yeah,
the Theosophists have a term for that. It's called crashed heaven.
Yeah. It's when things get brought down to the earth with a bang, like a star falling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
T. Jordan says the virus hasn't been isolated. Absolutely. Like that's something that's really more. That never really comes out. I would love to talk to the woman who runs the local hospital here, get a public dialogue, say, have you isolated the vaccine? Not the vaccine, but the virus. The answer is emphatically no, they haven't. There's no peer review studies. It's all going on some kind of distorted empirical data from the popes of science, Fauci, the WHO, et cetera. That's it. And it's all about belief.
It's the crown virus, the coronavirus, the Keter, right? The crown.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, we could probably do another show on it eventually, but I do think that all virus is coming from space. It's coming from cometary dust, and they're probably getting these viruses from space and weaponizing them and administering them. And it's really intense when you think about it, because I think our genes are getting changed by comets and the flow of comets and cometary dust and meteor showers and all of this. It's why there's a space force. There's sacred technology within asteroids and comets and meteor showers, and it's certain flus will come around every 30 years or 40 years. Certain strains will seemingly come out of nowhere. They're coming from space, and so there's astrobiologists way smarter than me, astrophysicists, that have proved this with their experiments. I just had one on the show, Chandra Wickrobinson, Professor Chandra. He's 83 years old now. Another guy from Sri Lanka. And he proved with astrophysicist Fred Hoyle in the 1980s that there's dripping down from our stratospheres, comet dust, millions and millions of bacteria and microbes coming down every day, and this is where diseases come from. It's coming from space, it's coming from comet dust.
Well, what's really interesting is that the theme of the invasion of the body snatchers, like
yeah, you're right.
And there are these little seeds that come down through the sky, right? And these little seeds hatch as these pods, and these pods hatch into like replicas of people, right? And it's almost like this is a metaphor for the mask, because it feels like mask people have become pod people.
Yeah.
They're not, they're like a kind of detuned representation of their former self. And that's always whatever version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers shows up, except for maybe Abel Ferrara's version, which I think the pod people are scarier. But they always show up as like these monotone, detuned versions of the original self, like a copy, right? But not a vibrant copy. Well, Ra, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
Yes, we did, sir.
All right. So Mystic Spiral, that's where you can find them.
Yep. The Mystical Spiral, the Mystical Spiral store,
Mystical Spiral
Radio, Radio, and patreon.com/the Mystical Spiral.
Yep. Well, thanks for being here, and love having you back. We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, we'll book you on my show too. I think did we book you a date already? Or
no, I don't think so.
I'll send you dates.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, I love you, man. You take good care.
You too.
All right. Bye for now. All right. Give it up, Ra Castaldo. It was a good day. It's a good day. He was in really good form, and you could tell like he's made significant changes with his life. He was, working a job to stay alive and feed his family, and he got the higher directive, and the higher directive came out, I think, in a bit of a confrontational manner. Sometimes that's how it happens, but he's off on his true work, right? This is his path. So it's wonderful to see that, and each and every one of you has that capability and possibility, even in the darkest of times. Don't ever forget that. Even in the darkest of times, there is that possibility. It's the way it works. If there wasn't, it'd be a pretty fucking boring place. And just, Jean-Paul Sartre, no exit. So Sunday night, we'll be back here on this channel for Sunday Night Astro Live, and I'm contemplating what I'm going to do on Sunday night show. I have two ideas, but there's something that I'm working on for Monday, and I'm not really at liberty to talk about it yet. But when I am, I will let you know. And I think it's, in the grand scheme of everything, it's minor, but as something symbolic, I think it's pretty significant, and it's evolving on its own, and I'm just participating with it. So I'll keep you in the loop with that. All right. Gotta go do work. Gotta try to get back in touch with people. Got a client in an hour. So use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart's open as possible. If Mary Black is in the chat, wish her a happy birthday. Lynette, it was her birthday yesterday. Wish her a happy birthday. So we got two birthdays. Birthday sandwich. I think Mary Black is tomorrow, and Lynette was yesterday. So Lynette, happy birthday to you. Happy soul return. Mary, same as well. And bye for now. See you guys back here on Sunday night. Use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart to see what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You're you, and bye for now.